name is John Bezner. Live here in Dalhart County, Texas. I'm a second generation on this land. My dad came here in the late 1960s and started out with a section of land, 640 acres, and grown it into a pretty nice operation that involves two of my brothers and a sister. And he still comes every day, still involved. I mean, my brothers and I do the heavy lifting, but he's here every day. Well, I've had an interest since day one. I guess my first memories of really anything are being out here. I started coming with Dad every day, or in the summer, or as often as possible anyway, when I was probably 5-6 years old, and I've been here ever since. Had a little time, went to college and took another job with another company for a little while, for 3 or 4 years, but ended up coming back home and took on the cattle side of our operation, and that's my favorite part. Everybody's got their favorite part of it, but this is mine. So, well, the farming entity is 3B Farms, Dalhart, Texas. We grow a lot of seed wheat and sell that, market it all across the Southwest, basically from Arkansas to Arizona, and from South Texas all the way up into the Dakotas. So we cover a lot of country in the seed business. We also grow about 450 acres of watermelons, probably 500 or so semi-loads of watermelons. We grow seed milo, 250 acres of alfalfa, pretty much covers it. Well, about 50, I think there's 5,500, 6,000 acres of corn this year. So there's a lot of going on. We've got this feed yard here and a grain elevator here on the home farm, and then another grain elevator in New Mexico on our New Mexico headquarters. I think total capacity on the elevators is just short of 2 million bushels. Well, cattle have always been a part of our operation. When we first came up, we rented our pasture to some local ranchers that bring their cows or their yearlings down from the higher elevations in New Mexico. And then in the early 80s, probably 81 or 2, we started buying our own cattle, and we've just grown the business since the 80s. So we're probably 42, 3 years, 45 years, somewhere in there. We have a one-time capacity of about 8,500 head. Right now we're pretty slow. It's that time of year. We hadn't started bringing cattle off grass yet. So I don't know, we've got 2,700 in here right now, but we'll be full probably by the 20th October. We'll be full. We call them English breeds here, Angus, Hereford, Charolais, and crosses of all those breeds. We do feed in the summertime. We have a lot of cattle come out of South Texas, and they're Bramer cross, Longhorn cross, and they tend to take the heat a lot better than some of the Black Angus, the dark-hided cattle suffer a little bit, especially when it's 110 like it was this year. But well, they're all domestic. Some groups are wilder than others, and I think it has more to do with how many people they've been around. We get some of that rough country in South Texas, or even Florida cattle that we get from time to time. The only time they ever see people is when they're getting a shot or getting fooled with dehorning and so forth. So they're pretty skittish and don't like being around people much. Some of the bigger ranches that are close by here, they're in and around the cattle pretty well every day. They've been around people a lot, been around horses a lot, and they'll be real nice and tame. But those cattle that don't ever see people, they're basically wild. It's sandy soil. We have nothing underneath. At the bunks and at the water tanks, we have concrete pads so they don't waller it out, and so they can get up to the bunk and get up to the tank. But as far as the pen, there's nothing but just probably a 3 or 4 inch manure pack that we try not to disturb, and just regular soil under that. Concrete and steel construction, water tank in every pen. You can't tell it today, but we have pretty good drainage. We got 3 inches of rain a few days ago, and So we're treading a little bit of mud, but it's not bad. We're on real sandy soil here, so the water soaks through and drains good. And dust control is always something that you have to think about. I mean, when it's really dry, we have some trouble with dust. We just try to keep the pens clean. We don't really do water or anything like that to try to keep it down. We just try to keep it scraped up. And then in the summertime, and like it is right now, we have less numbers of cattle in each pen. For example, this is probably a 210 head pen, and I've got 120 in there. It lets cattle spread out. I've got 2 guys that are horseback every day, and then I got 2 guys on the feed crew that run the feed trucks and so forth, and then a guy in maintenance that just tries to keep the place from falling down around us. We try to stay a few minutes behind the feed truck, like maybe 15-20 minutes behind the truck, and they'll start from one end of the yard and go through every pen. And I don't know if survey is the right word, but they'll look at every animal, make sure every animal gets up. Obviously the cattle that are hanging out in the back of the pen, those are the ones that'll get the most scrutiny, and more than likely those are the ones that have a health problem of some kind. And so it's pretty easy to tell on that first round in the morning. I've got 2 guys that are responsible for the health of the cattle. That would be Justin and Jose, and they prowl them early in the morning, and then they'll drive the yard and have a look at everything a couple of times during the day.
So we're here today. We rode through some pens, and we ride through them to check for cripples, for anything that's not feeling too well in the stomach, anything that's just out of the ordinary of the herd. I will usually start by temping them with the temp gauge in their rear end, and see if they're running a fever or anything. If it gets up to 101 to 104, they're pretty hot. They're not feeling very well. If you're not sure on a cow, you pull him and you're like, I don't know if he's sick or not. This is my go-to tool right here, is checking for temperature. We got a tag right here. This number identifies the herd that it comes from, and then we got a special ID on the back that keeps this animal separate. That way, when it goes into the computer, we know what this cow has been treated with, what day, how much of the medicine, and what kind of medicine, and what it was treated for. So if they got diarrhea, I'll drench them orally with this Corid. It's basically for digestive system, help them with their stomach issues. But the day we doctor her, I'll write the date. That way, when I take her back home, I'll know what date she was doctored. That way a couple days from now, if she's still looking a little down, well, I know she still has medicine in her immune system working, and that way I don't pull out again and give her more medicine and just put more stress on this cow here. She kind of snotty in the nose, had a bunch of drainage out of her mouth. In the back end when I go into a pen, they'll start circling around me, and usually the ones in the back of the herd is the ones that are, feeling down, feeling sick. She's very empty in her flanks, just not very much energy. You can tell a big difference from a yearling that feels 100% to some, say like this, that's just sick, something's going on. So, well, I like these type of cattle because they're strong. They're very resistant to disease, and they come from out in the pasture and then come into this feed yard where it's just a different environment for them, but they're tough. Say, I don't pull very many, like this is the first one we pulled in a couple days or so to a different type of cow, a yearling. They'll break after you process them, they'll break 6-7 days from the first day they got here, and you gotta probably doctor 15-20% out of the whole pen. But these kind of cattle, even cattle from Mexico that come over here, are pretty tough too, and they don't gain weight as fast as these American breeds do, but they're tough. Well, I'm gonna give her some rest floor, which rest floor, that's my go-to on, especially she's never been doctored. I love rest floor. It really will, it will attack that fever. It helps, does a lot in respiratory, and its longevity is, the medicine lasts forever, like, you know, more than 5, 6, 7 days, to where I don't have to go back in that pen and worry about her because I know my medicine's doing its job. So I'll keep an eye on her the next following days, making sure she's at the bunk eating, has the energy, she's just feeling better every day from here on out. And if not, then we will have to pull her 5 or 6 days from here and probably give her another shot. But if there's something we can't do, we'll get a vet called and abscess. Something that's broke, or just something that we can't do with our own hands. So very often, but if it's needed to be done, we'll get a vet out here. You see the cattle every day. You work with medicine every day, and you see which medicine works different, especially so we got a scale here that tell me 480 pounds she weighs, and that has an effect too of how much medicine you're supposed to give her, because the smaller, the less dosage of amount you're supposed to give them. What helps me the most is I got a computer that I'll put it in, and I'll put the medicine I want to give her, and the computer will tell me how much medicine I need to give that particular yearling. Breast floor is mainly into the muscle, I'd say, yeah, and then Baytril under the skin. And you want to give so much amount in each place. You just don't want to put it all in one place. So say if it's 20 cc, we'll do 2 spots, 10 cc per spot. Okay. That way, because then you'll get an abscess right there. And every time I drench, when I do give them, I'll rub it in and out. That way it's spreading out through the body, getting worked in and out. The earlier you catch the sickness and get it doctored as quickly, you have a better chance and a higher percentage to that cow won't come back and see us. To where if you're a day or 2 late and they're not feeling really well, you're more than likely gonna lose that yearling.
Well, stress is a huge deal. It's just like your pet at home. If it, when you leave the house and you leave your pet at home by himself and they're all stressed out, well, you're gone 4 or 5 days. They don't eat because of the stress, and that's just part of it. And the more stress you have, the more likely you're going to have problems. Even from injuries. You have it.
Getting here at a certain time every day, all year, and getting feed to those cattle as quickly as possible, because that does create a lot of stress, because they expect that to be there at that certain time every day for 24/7. And once you get a good routine, that's all they know. And if you stay on top of it, it helps. It even helps with me doctoring or less pulls or just stuff like that.
And it's the consistency in your program. We try to feed, the rule of thumb is feed within 5 minutes at the same time every day. Well, those cattle get into routine. They're creatures of habit. If the feed's an hour late, well, they're freaking out and we're never going to get fed again, and then they start riding and running and fighting or whatever. So you keep that stress level down, and it's a big deal.
Like sometimes pulling a yearling out can be pretty difficult at times, especially when your pens are muddy. But if you got a good partner like I do, and you set a couple gates ahead, you can pull a handful out with that sick, make it easier, less stress, and go back to stress, and then sort them off. It's a big thing. House cleaning, keeping the stress low on the cattle, and just trying to control the things you can that we can, and go from there.
We treat them like one of our kids, so we try to take care of them.
Yeah, go back to that, 6 o'clock in the evening on a Sunday, no one wants to come out and no one wants to get up on their day off and go back to work. Well, John, every Sunday, he'll come 6 in the evening, because we get done feeding pretty early, because you won't feed and go home, but he'll come and check the bunks and make sure everything has feed. If not, he'll jump in the feed truck and throw about 200 pounds in that bunk to get him through the night and on to the next morning. But it's just little things like that. Yeah. Taking pride and joy in your lifestyle. It's nice when Jose's been here about 15 years and I'm going on 10, so it helps when you have people that have been consistent, especially double-digit years. So they've been good to me, I've been good to them, and it's just we're all trying, at the end of the day, we're all trying to reach the same goal and, you know, just get on to the next day. Like I said, the first 7 years I was here, I was on the farm side, and I never knew a dang thing about it, and now I think I know all of it. But cowboy, I love cowboy. When I was a kid, I would, you know, that's all I wanted to do is cowboy, and be careful what you wish for. But yeah, it's been good.
We all follow social media. It's part of our lives these days. And you hear a lot of negative things, factory farming and how cruel, you know, this scenario is. And we talk amongst ourselves, but I tell people that I run a 5-star hotel for cattle. I mean, we try to make sure they have a perfectly balanced diet every day. They get fed 3 times a day. They have clean water. They have a clean place to lay down and rest. Sure, we're going to harvest these cattle. That's agriculture. We've been at this for eons, you know, for thousands of years, and that's part of how we keep our existence. So as long as you're treating the cattle with respect and humanely, and know what the end result's going to be, and you treat them with that respect, I don't see a problem with it. It's the most nutritious, healthiest thing you can eat. I have 2 brothers that are involved in the business. Mark primarily takes care of the equipment and the farming side of it, and Brian does too. Brian is in the office a lot and takes care of a lot of the marketing, and of course we're all working at it together. We've got 11,000 acres of farm ground, and then out in New Mexico we have some lease ranches, and part of it's state lease, part of it's BLM, National Forest Service. But anyway, we probably have about 60,000 acres out there in total. We have a local sale barn here, local auction, but they might run, I don't know, from 300 calves to maybe 1,800 calves. So there's not enough volume just right here locally to do that. So we have guys scattered around the country. We get cattle from Alabama to Missouri, Kansas, of course Texas. Get a few out of Arkansas, gotten cattle out of Arizona and New Mexico. So they just come from all around. I guess you'd call me the stockman, I don't know. I run a lot of equipment around here. I mean, we have tractors and loaders and motor graders and all that, you know, here on the feed yard too, but I don't do very much tractor driving as far as field work. I'm not a big fan of factory farming or corporate farm deal, but I mean, I know it's a part of it, but I'd rather keep more of it in the family farm operations like ours. I know it seems like the acreages that I was quoting seemed like a huge farm, but still it's a family farm. I mean, it's with my folks being here, 2 brothers, myself and a sister that works in the office. What is that, 5 families that it's taken care of. It's still a family farm. It's big, you know, sounds awfully big, but it's taking care of not only our 5 families, but we have probably 25 employees too that it takes care of. So it's a family farm, even though it's large. But you know, the corporate stuff, the great big stuff, you know, it's part of the necessary. It's a necessary. I'm not going to say evil, but it's a necessary part of the whole food system. Ag is different than a lot of other things. I think the biggest challenge that we have, for one, is finding employees. I mean, we always have turnover. You know, it's hard to find employees that are, you know, that want to stay. We talked to Justin about being here 10 years. Jose's been here for at least 15. I can't remember for sure. I've got some guys on the farm side been here for 30 years, but you don't see those guys come along very often anymore. It's just, you know, the turnover seems to be, the merry-go-round just keeps getting faster and faster. But that's a big challenge. And then the financial side of it is a big challenge. You know, the banking world, the financial world has changed a lot in the last 5 or 10 years. So ag is a different animal than every other kind of business. It's not like selling shoes. We don't buy a product and then, you know, mark it up and sell a product. We have all these variables, and of course most people know it. We're fighting weather and we're fighting the market, which we have no control of, and So there's a lot of challenges that makes it a pretty tough world to be involved in. I like being outside. I like being horseback. It's a lot of fun to plant a crop in April or May and in 120 days, you know, harvest 250 bushel corn. That's pretty cool. Or these cattle, you know, they're like your children almost. They have all these physical challenges and I mean, they're naive. They show up, they don't know what a feed bunk is. They've been drinking out of a creek somewhere. They don't know what a water tank is. You know, some of them, they don't understand what people are. So they've got a lot of challenges, and when you can get them settled down and get them healthy, and now they're just laying around and living a pretty good life, and that's pretty fun too. I wouldn't make it in the office building. I couldn't do it. I like being outside and cuss the weather most days, but it's either too dry, too hot, too cold, too wet. You know how it is. That's the farmer way, but we enjoy being outdoors and being with the livestock, being with Mother Nature. It's, you know, you get to that end of the day and all the work is done, or as much as you can get done for the day, and the weather gets quiet and the wind lies down and you see a beautiful sunset or you see a beautiful sunrise. You don't get that anywhere but out here in the country. So.